everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. We should be live on the group now. So if you'd like to just give us some thumbs up and some hearts and some hellos, hi there's, how was your days? Then that'll be really great. Today we're talking on For Her about creating a positive mindset in life and in business. So we'll look at sort of both areas, sort of business related, but also just generally in life. So can everybody hear us? Yeah, we are getting some likes and we're getting some evenings. So let's just see who's joining us. Hello, Kerry. Kerry actually connected myself and Emma, so that's great. Thanks for that, Kerry. Hi, Imogen. Hi, Michelle. Right, so if you wouldn't mind, starting with Emma, we'll just sort of introduce yourselves just quickly and then we'll go straight into chat. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
So, hi, ladies. My name's Emma and I'm a mindset coach and hypnotherapist. So I work with entrepreneurs, women in business, anyone really who is struggling to overcome sort of any past traumatic experiences or really struggling to get their mindset focused on what it is they want to do. So I transform mindsets from fear to freedom, help you to let go of any past experiences, help to build confidence and really start to make sustainable changes that will impact across all areas of your life.
Fabulous.
That's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. Oh, I like that. Good nutshell. Angie? Can you hear us,
Hi,
Angie?
everyone. Okay, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, good. Okay. I'm also a hypnotherapist and I'm a qualified counsellor, and I use a lot of practice of mindfulness in my business as well. I guess I can't really sum myself up as easily as proud as Emma has, but I work with a huge diverse range of people, right the way from young people. I'm an advanced CRB checked. I start working with more and more young people. I seem to be a bit, I suppose, off the wall, so kids respond well to me, right the way through to adults, people in their 80s and 90s wanting to stop smoking, that kind of thing. And I also work with a lot of people who deal with anxiety in their lives and stress. Obviously, busy people have a lot of stress. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Angie. Thank you. So starting with Emma, just because you mentioned about you do deal with a lot of sort of, you look at business as a focus. What would you say then, looking at this as a subject, how should business women or women running businesses or in sort of really high pressure jobs and that kind of thing, how do what strategies do you think they should adopt in order to sort of help them in their business lives?
Ooh, okay, that's a biggie. First and foremost, anything to do with mindset work requires consistency and patience, but also a commitment to show up and to be accountable, as you would with any other goal that you would set within business. And quite often people will think, they've spent a couple of weeks or a couple of days focusing on a positive mindset and that's enough, one positive thought and everything's going to change. But the reality is, as with anything, mindset work is an evolving process, and it's really important to recognize that at the beginning, to manage your expectations, but also to have that commitment level there to start off with. For me, certainly in business, it's there's a few things. It's really does depend on the individual and also sort of what's going on within their business. But what I find is really key with regards to helping you to sort of overcome procrastination or with fear or with anything like that is to get really clear on what it is that you want to achieve. And quite often we will focus on the things that we don't want rather than the things that we do. And our mind then naturally directs us down the route of the outcomes that we're trying to avoid. So it's really important to get clear on what those goals look like, what you want to achieve, what you want your business to achieve, who can you connect with, who can you bring in to, to help you with that, and break everything down. Because quite often when I'm working with business people, they've got all these brilliant goals, but they're so overwhelmed and so anxious about achieving them because they're so huge that they just sort of veer off in a different direction, or procrastination kicks in. And it's really key to look to break down your goals, break them down to weekly, to even daily intentions, certainly monthly and quarterly and that sort of stuff. Because if you can break goals down, your focus is a lot clearer. You're a lot more likely to remain focused and inspired and motivated to achieve them, because they are achievable bite-sized chunks. And if you are focusing just on that one goal, or the one or two goals that you may have in the day, it will pretty much stop any fear or any anxiety or any overwhelm creeping in, because your mind is so directed around what that goal looks like, what that focus is, that it can stop you from getting distracted. So that's probably the key thing. You know, a lot of the stuff that I do is really about getting clear on what you want and focusing on the right things. I don't know whether I can give you an example for that. It's going a little bit off piece because it's not necessarily business orientated, but certainly I was trying to conceive my son for 3.5 years. Every month I would focus on not falling pregnant, the things that weren't happening, and almost getting so wound up and caught up in all the things that I didn't have, that I started to lose the focus on the one thing that I wanted, which was to fall pregnant. And so the moment that I kind of, me and my husband sort of role reversed that and flipped it and focused on the falling pregnant, not the not falling, a month later we fell pregnant. And it just really highlighted the importance that you have to keep focused on the things that you want. If you don't, your mind doesn't know what's different between what's real and what's not. So it will just go where your thoughts guide it. So if you are focusing on all the things that are lacking in your life, then your mind and the universe effectively will just guide you and give you a lot more of that. So by focusing on the things that you want, you start to attract the things that you want. You start to build momentum. More of the things that you want start to come into your life. Your energy levels increase. Your abundance, your attraction, your vibration, all of that sort of stuff starts to gear and veer down the road of pleasure and success, rather than lacking and negativity.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think just lately I've had a couple of people who I've spoken to, and they're maybe having one part of their lives which isn't as isn't going as well for them, whether it be in their business or a relationship that's failed or something like that. And so because they're focusing on the fact that that one area of their life is not how they want it to be, then they're sort of saying my whole life is ruined, my whole life is really bad. Because that is a thing, isn't it? If you focus on those negative things that are happening, everything seems that it's going badly. Whereas if you, like you say, flip that around and look at the positive aspect, then the more the positive things happen, then more positive things happen. And obviously the areas of your life that aren't so good, kind of, the momentum, as you say, carries on, and that kind of all sort of snowballs in effect, doesn't it? So
100%. I mean, we all function by a thought cycle, and that's very much that any thought that we have will generate feelings of some sort, which will then ultimately affect how we act, and then the results that we have. And so if you are focusing on everything in your life not going very well, then you're going to end up feeling very disillusioned, very overwhelmed, very anxious. It's going to lead you to not really taking inspired action, because you haven't got the energy to, or you're not really clear on the direction in which you're going to go, and therefore your business pretty much remains stagnant and isn't growing and developing, which is how you want it to be. Whereas if you focus on the things that you want, your mindset starts to see success very differently. And as you start to really open your mind to the possibility of achieving these things, then you suddenly start to feel excited and motivated. And that ultimately then leads you to take inspired action to make that connection with that one person you've been putting off, or, to sign a deal, or to increase your prices, or to launch a program that you've been putting off. And then ultimately, as a result of that, you get growth in your business, you get return in investment, which then leads on to a more positive thought, which then leads on to positive feelings, and that you start to build momentum in that way. By focusing on things in small chunks, it gives you the opportunity to keep like areas of your life effectively clear from any negativity. So if you are struggling in a relationship but your business is working really well, or you're struggling in your financial side of it but your relationship part's working really well, you can then start to tap into the connections, the resources, the mindsets you have about these certain areas of your life and transfer them into areas that you're perhaps struggling with. Because ultimately everything that we need to succeed is stored up here. We have all the resources that we need within our mindset. It's just having the confidence and the belief to tap into those resources and to start to use them in a productive way. And that's where you can really start to transfer. You know, I've got a client who is so incredibly good at attracting money. She is amazing at attracting money, but she's always had issues with her relationship side of things, and has always attracted the wrong person that she wanted to have as a challenge and wanted to change. And so we really looked at how her relationship with money worked and how she can transfer that into how she acts and how she thinks about men and about relationships. And it's amazing how transferable these skills are and these resources are. It's just a case of giving yourself that permission to see things from a bigger picture and being open to it.
Yeah, definitely. Angie, have you got anything to add on that? Anything that sort of spiked your curiosity or your thought process going as you were listening to Emma there?
Yeah, I was actually, because I think that when we're talking about women in particular, there are some women who are extremely good at certain aspects of their life. I call it the balanced wheel of life, if you want to take it in that way, whether you have relationships, work, whatever you've got in your world at that time. And some people, as Emma said, they kind of focus their attention into one area. And it sort of draws them away from working on other areas, and that's okay for a certain amount of time, but there might come a time when you reach a tipping point, for example with a relationship, where you've probably ignored certain signals, things, and you focused on, say, your working life to the detriment of that relationship, where they're exceptionally good as a businesswoman, but almost put themselves in a position of not believing their own ability. There's a word for it, isn't there? Imposter syndrome. And they roared with laughter when I mentioned that. But it is about distrusting your own ability as well. So I don't know, Emma, do you want to pick up on that? Because I think it relates, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people will often feel a bit of a fraud or something if they're saying one thing and then they might think, well, people will think, well, who the hell are you to say this, that and the other? So it's just having that confidence and that belief, and you know, and connecting with the right people that inspire and motivate you and understand the journey that you're on, and so therefore won't challenge and question you in an unproductive way. They will do it in a way that keeps you going and keeps pushing you forward, but they won't drain that energy and make you feel as if you're being judged.
Yeah, we're all our worst own worst enemies, aren't we, when it comes to actually sort of, you know, we look at other people and say, oh, you're doing great things with what you're doing, but when it's ourselves, we're literally like always putting ourselves down, and always, you know, whether it be looking in our bodies in the mirror, or whether it be, you know, looking at what we're doing in business, or, you know, for example with the conference me and my team are organising, literally, you know, as every day I'm looking on like how many tickets are sold and that much, and there's kind of, rather than going, wow, you know, another 10 tickets are sold, you know, you're kind of constantly going, well, why is that not happening, you know, why is there more? You're kind of so hard on yourself sometimes, actually. You don't, you're never going to give yourself a break,
No.
almost, you know. But you can, it's strange how you can do it to other people and actually be, you know, lift other people up and say, oh, you did really well there, and they're going, oh, you know, that's not turned out well, and you're like, oh, that's amazing. It's just, I think it's so strange how we literally we're hate on ourselves almost,
We do, yeah.
for the fun of it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I suppose going back to what you said, Emma, about the transferable, you know, between business and life and body, and, you know, all different areas of our I know Sam James, who is a coach in does some work with Angie, together with Angie. She wanted to be on here tonight, but unfortunately she's relaxing at a spa, so
how nice.
hope you're having fun, Sam. You know, we're actually doing some serious stuff over here.
Yeah.
But she always uses that sort of, you know, the wheel with all the you know, different areas of your life and how they need to be balanced and how yours are balanced and that kind of thing. And thinking of the whole transferable thing, I suppose that's true, but it's also very specialist to each person, isn't it? I suppose they have to kind of, you know, the areas of your life have to be balanced in the way that Angie's nodding frantically. So, do you want to chip in there?
Yeah,
I to work with Sam, haven't you, on this? So
yeah, I mean, we both have quite a strong view on balance of life, and you know, there are times in life where things don't balance out. I mean, come on, you know, we are humans. We live with daily change and daily differences, and actually that's what I was going to come on to with regard to that, if it's okay to kind of divert off a bit. And that is that sometimes we need to remember that actually we are not a fixed individual for the rest of our life. How I was at 30 with my balance of things in my life at 30 are very different to nearly my milestone birthday this year, you know, 20 years on. And I think we need to accept almost, I mean, I see this as positivity. I don't know how you feel about this, everybody, but that like daily I change, and the way I view the world changes. Hour by hour, I see the world differently. And other people may not have caught up with who I am now. Is that my problem? No, but sometimes we care so much about other people as well that it affects our balance in life. So I don't know what you make of that, but to me, that means that I can feel positive in who I am. I just sometimes have to encourage other people to see where I am at. So the way that I discuss and talk to them is very important too. And by them, I mean the people who are closest to me, my friends, my family. And when people live miles, 1,000 miles away, as they do in my family, that can be quite tricky sometimes because they don't know where I am at. And I think that your life has to have good and bad in it to understand what sort of positive thinking and what negative thinking is, because unless you've experienced either. So I'm looking at, I'm kind of going off tangent a bit, but I hope it makes sense.
yeah, I think especially with the world of the media and social media and that stuff, like you say, your mindset's changing all the time with how, you know, with trends of the world and how you perceive things and how you perceive your friendships and your other relationships, and you know, and I think that is a valid point, that you kind of, because we're evolving so quickly, you know, our minds are evolving so quickly, that also sometimes you look at it and think, well, it's almost like, what should I be thinking to think positively? Because sometimes it's kind of, I suppose what it goes back, what Emma said, is looking at that goal and trying to strive towards that and actually, you know, cut that down. But also, if that goal then keeps changing, that's also very difficult, isn't it, I suppose, because you kind of, I think, you know, looking at business point of view, you know, I've been in business nearly 5 years, and literally I'm terrible at this. I'll do that, so opportunities come my way and I take them, But then that causes that goalpost to always move, and so sometimes I'm left quite confused with how, I am evolving myself, but to then communicate that to other people, well, if I don't know myself, how are other people going to know? It's kind of that scenario, I suppose. Emma, what are your thoughts?
I was just going to say, I think that's another reason why it's really important, if you break it down to smaller chunks, then it gives you that opportunity to monitor your progression and to start to sort of see, life gets in the way and opportunities come up, like you say. And so you could go with all good intentions, then suddenly an opportunity of a lifetime comes in and you can't miss that. But if you're regularly monitoring your progression and where you're at, it's easier then to direct yourself down that route because you've learned from it. What I will say with sort of anything goal related or anything life related, everything that we go through, there is a lesson that's learned in that. And there's Tony Robbins is very famous for saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. So if your business isn't growing, it's dying. And if we're not growing, we're dying. We're just existing. And so to learn and understand and to develop and evolve on a day-to-day basis is brilliant, because it means we are taking knowledge and experience and feedback, and we're using it to expand our opportunities, our feedback, our interactions, our connections. All of that comes from being open to evolving and to expanding and developing. And so it is really important to almost sort of embrace that rather than go against it, because in the society that we live in, everything is so instantaneous. We expect answers yesterday. We're all sat here now, all across the different parts of the country, all having a chat. Things are just evolving all the time. And so the more you resist it, the more resistance will come. But if you kind of are open to that and you see it as an opportunity to grow and learn and develop, from that comes knowledge, and from knowledge, comes good ideas and successes and opportunities and that sort of thing. So it's very important to keep open with that across all areas of business and personal life, for sure.
Yeah,
good old Tony.
Yeah, I know.
What's that?
Got a lot to say, that Tony, and he.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, good old Tony. He
I
shouts.
think that is right, though. It's the way I've heard so many people say it is also the way you deal with the situation, the way you react to it, rather than the actual
100%,
situation itself, isn't it? So it is, when bad things happen, whether it be in your personal or business life, it's kind of that bit, I suppose, because
choices.
life is so fast paced, it's kind of having that ability to take a step back and actually look and evaluate and sort of look at areas of what's happened and why it's happened, and then take those and sort of turn them around and almost give them a positive slant and say, oh well, at least I know that for another time I've learned that aspect. If that came up again, I would do that differently. I think the main problem with that is we don't have time in our lives now to actually reflect. That's what do you think about that, Angie? That is reflection is a thing that a lot of people don't do.
I definitely agree with you, Serena. I was just picking up a book to remind myself. John Kabat-Zinn, who writes about mindfulness and meditation. I'm going to read you what he says, because I really like this, and it definitely links. It says, it's kind of like on the end of the subject. He says, moreover, you are already a somebody. No matter what you are who you are already. So he's talking about, in other words, having time for reflection, just to know who you are in life at that point. And he goes on to say, because you're not just your name, your age, your childhood, or your beliefs, or your fears. And fears are the things that stop us doing things, aren't they? So I quite like what he says there. What I took from it was that you are already a somebody. So he's saying, you can take on other people's opinions, or you can take on your own judgments for you. It means that you can self-reflect. You don't have to believe anyone else's judgments. You don't have to believe your own judgment. That's not to say if you're touching something hot, then you shouldn't remove your hand, yeah? I'm talking here about perhaps other people saying you should or shouldn't do something. But it's down to an awareness of who you are at that time. And I think it's quite powerful to know that it's okay to be you at this time, even if you might feel, you know, that perhaps you haven't hit every single to-do list item, which is my current state of play. But it doesn't make me a worse person, does it? It means that I'm actually fallible. I actually know that I've got a to-do list to get through. I will get through it. I might miss one or two items, as Sam and I have discussed in the past. But does it matter? Am I going to be upsetting anybody? Probably not. You know, I am not perfection. I think that's a big deal when it comes to thinking positively. People set their aspirations so high, and with a positive mindset and everything, yeah, good, you need it. But it's also accepting when you don't get to the very top of that tree that you're aiming to reach. You know, sometimes it's about, someone once said this to me in business rather than life, and that was, sometimes you've got to take the low-hanging fruit. Sounds like, you know, a bit of a gobbledygook, but actually it's a good point, isn't it? Have you heard that?
I've never heard that before. Oh, I love that, Angie.
Sometimes you've got to take the low-hanging fruit from the tree. Don't try and grab the top apple.
What does that mean then?
I think what it means is that you can put your ambitions up really high. For example, my 10 items on my current to-do list, but actually there might be a couple of things on there that are really quite going to help me deliver what objectives I've set. So I might go, okay, I'll take, you know, the big ticket item there, thank you very much, tick, I'll get that done. And maybe there's another item that's a bit harder, so I've got to break it down into chunks. So perhaps I need to redesign my to-do list and then go, well, actually I've achieved this and this item by getting rid of these and putting them on the back burner. So it is that constant reevaluation.
Yeah.
I'm getting task focused here now, but that's probably because I am task focused at the moment.
Well, it's actually good. You've said that, because I know one of the comments earlier, I was just checking in on the comments to people who are watching, and Kerry Brind actually said, what techniques do you have about changing you know, a negative mindset into a positive? And I suppose that is one of them, looking at your to-do list, looking at your tasks, you know, looking at your you know, what your goals are and aspirations, and actually, are they realistic? You know, are you being too tough on yourself? Do you know what I mean? And that, I suppose, that's that reflection again. Or just
I
Michelle,
do agree with
Michelle, sorry, yeah, go for it.
I think Kerry asked a good question, because we are very harsh on ourselves. I'm sure everybody can take that on board, especially what you said earlier, Serena. And sometimes it's too easy to think, well, that's not good enough, or, you know, I could have done that better, or, you know, whatever. I'll probably review this afterwards and go, oh my God, Angie, you could have done that better. But it's life, right? And we've all got to have a first at something. So this is my first at doing an online conference. Thank you very much, Serena.
You're doing very well.
So I'm taking that as a gratitude. I'm grateful, you know, I really am grateful, and I appreciate. So gratitude would be one way of thinking, right, this might not have gone, you know, my experience of setting up Zoom might not have been perfect, but hey, I got there. And, you know, how does that make me feel? Positive. It's like, yeah, actually I did that, and it's like us jumping out of the aeroplane together, Serena, you know, with our respective I don't know what they're called. And, you know, I'd never done that before. So what did I do? I built up my expectation for it to be a positive experience rather than one that would terrify me and stop me from doing it. That's a big example, but breaking it down and saying, do you know what? I learned from that. Here's what I'm going to do next. Not giving myself such a hard time.
Yeah. definitely.
Does that
Yeah,
Can I just add
yeah,
on
add
to
on
that
to
a little
it,
bit? Sorry.
definitely.
Certainly, Angie, you just mentioned the gratitude piece, and for me, I find that is probably a key thing that should be incorporated into people's life admin or their daily routines. I've got here my gratitude diary that I write every day about the things that I'm grateful for, and I think certainly, if you are someone who very much is driven by a to-do list and will then focus on the things that are still left on the to-do list, this is a really good way of actually allowing you to finish the day on a high and being grateful for what you've achieved, because it gets you to focus on the things you have done rather than the things you haven't. And quite often, when we're in a mindset of lack or things not working how we want them to, it's very hard to it's very easy, to take for granted the things that we've got going on in our lives, and we almost sort of miss it. And so by having this gratitude diary, it gives you that opportunity to really connect to the things that you do have in your life that, that are positive, that are abundant, that shows that you're successful and that you're loved in ways that you've probably forgotten. And it's a really good reality check in bringing you back to the things that you've got in your life. And then, of course, when you're focusing on the things you've got in your life, you then start to attract more of that. And so from a technique point of view, gratitude is massive. But I just want to say about comeback rates as well, because, women are really hard on themselves in general. And, life does get in the way. And when you're doing mindset work and positive thinking, no one expects you to be positive 100% of the time. There are going to be days where you're going to be pissed off or someone's going to upset you or various things like that. The difference is your comeback rate. So if things knock you off piece or, irritate you or anything like that, it's one, your awareness of that, and two, how quickly you recover and come back from that. And that is really, really key. And that comes with experience and knowledge and knowing what your triggers are, being aware of what, the stories that you've perhaps told yourself, any self-sabotage patterns that are starting to creep back in. It's being aware of what these things are and going, hang on a minute, old patterns are repeating here, or I'm not going to let that person define my day, and I'm going to come back on that. You might be in a mood about something, but do you hold on to it all day, or do you process it for like half an hour, and then let it go? And that's a really good sort of technique, but also a really good awareness for moving forward. Because as you said earlier on, life is 10% what happens and 90% how you respond to that. And that comes from choice. And you have choices of whether to let someone or something affect your mindset, affect your focus, affect your motivation, or you can choose to push beyond that and to focus on the things that you want and to stay true to yourself and get really clear on what you're passionate about and what motivates you and what things you're grateful for in your life, and you keep going and you really connect to why you keep going, and which is very unique and bespoke to yourself, but it really drives you. So everything that you have in life is a choice. And it's really key to remember that, everything I've done, everything that's gone on in my life has come from a choice. Sometimes a really poor choice, but sometimes a brilliant choice. And it's taking that ownership and that responsibility of those choices and learning from them. So I don't know if I've just digressed somewhat there, but
no, I'm just sort of having a think. I suppose what's going through my mind at the moment is just that whole reflection thing again, and making sure that you kind of touch bases with yourself and actually, in order to be able to see patterns, emerging, or to be able to see how you're dealing with something, or is actually to take that step back and take that time to process things. I think nowadays with the change in technology, social media, that kind of thing, people are so quick. You see it all the time. People are so quick to sort of jump on a message and kind of react straight away without having that process and time, and I think sometimes it is that just almost saying, right, I'm going to totally step away from that situation, take myself out, and then look at this logically, and then back rather than being, you know, bam, 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 and then you're then in a, you know, deeper, worse situation. You've made bad choices because you haven't done that reflection, as it were. I suppose that's where I was then thinking, kind of situations where I have sort of snapped back or something like that, and then regretted it later on because I've dealt with it in a bad way, because, you know, I felt I needed to react straight away.
I think that, can I chip in?
Yeah.
Because what I think you might be referring to is what I call a reaction, that you're having a thought to something, but that thought isn't a fact necessarily, because we all colour our own world with our own view of what's happened to us from childhood right the way through. And so sometimes someone might even say a trigger word. I think Emma mentioned trigger. That's a trigger word. If someone say, I don't know, let's say they were shut in a garage as a child, and, you know, by accident, but got stuck there for several hours and was scared. If someone were to refer to a garage in a conversation, it could set off a whole set of triggers for somebody, or a phobia or something like that. But a thought isn't a fact. A thought is actually just a thought. And it could be that your reaction or my reaction to somebody else saying something is completely not what they meant. You know, it's very easy to kind of read other people from our own perspective of the world. And that's really what reflection allows us to do. It goes back to that word gratitude and compassion somewhat, I think, the word compassion, of thinking that person was really mean to me just then. And, you know, that's another aspect of not being hard on ourselves immediately and anticipating that we've done something wrong. It could be that the other person has had a really awful day and might just be being mean because it's kind of bouncing off them as to how horrible their day was. But it may be not a reflection on us at all. And I guess that's about resilience, isn't it?
Yeah. I also think the whole message thing, you know, nowadays we don't tend to just pick up the phone and say, you know, this is how I'm feeling, you know, this is how I've took something you've said, or, you know, you don't have that open, honest conversation. Instead, you know, if it comes on an email or a Facebook message or a WhatsApp or whatever, you know, it comes through in the wrong way, you know, or we interpret it in the wrong way, you know, rather than kind of, you know, picking up that phone, most of the time then just go back and say, well, da 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 da, and then it just escalates something that wasn't even a situation to begin with into this awful, horrible situation. So I suppose it is just, you know, the way you interpret things and deal with things is so important, really, isn't it? And I suppose again that comes down to that reflection and that
awareness.
Stop and actually reflect, what is happening here? Okay, how should I deal with this logically, rather than just making those snap decisions. I'll just have a look at the comments.
Sure.
We've got sort of quarter an hour to go, so you've got you two have got loads of fans. Everyone was saying, you know, really saying Emma, you know, love watching Angie, she's great. What we got, Imogen, bless her, she's put, you've just inspired me to note some positives. I've written a little list of things I've achieved in the last 2 months, and indeed it does make me feel better. Oh, that's lovely. That's really good.
That's really good.
That's kind of,
and that's what it's about.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, you know, it's also, I want to actually come back to I think Emma said it right at the start of the show about the whole support thing. Because I think obviously this show is a lot about support, and, you know, we're trying to touch the lives of people, you know, like, for example, Imogen just saying, you know, you've empowered her to kind of do that, and now she feels better. And I suppose that is what this group is all about, and the show's about, is to try and sort of, you know, support others and make them, you know, and I suppose that has a massive impact on your own mindset, doesn't it? Who you've got around you and who you're surrounding yourself with.
I mean, for me, support networks are are life-changing. They're absolutely key, because you know, whether it's in personal life and you're dealing with something individually, or you're an entrepreneur or business person, effectively you have the choices. But really, if you can connect and have that support, then it just encourages you to do so much more. You know, I've got a support network around me that I effectively said have saved my life, which you know, is quite a bold statement to make. But the truth is, you know, the reason I got into the coaching side is because I've gone through quite a traumatic. I've had quite a traumatic past, through sexual assault and physical assault, and redundancies and fertility issues and various things like that. And I know that I would not be where I am today without the support that I've had around me. And that is, you know, support within families, but it's also support with people who are in the industry or who have an understanding of what you're going through, who can offer you guidance and support in a neutral environment. So there is no judgment there. There is, you know, you haven't got to face that person if you don't want to in a social environment, if you've just like told them your deepest, darkest secrets. But it's really about bringing people in, you know, that empower your life, that support your decisions, that support, you know, your journey, your transformation, you know, your obstacles and your challenges, and don't judge you, and really help you and encourage you to keep going, because you can't do everything on your own. And that, you know, that's the key thing. You can't do everything on your own. You know, you are the driver, but you can have people to direct you and support you and help you in so many different ways. And it's just having the confidence and the courage to ask for that help and to see it as a strength rather than a form of weakness. You know, for me, I find it incredibly empowering when people ask for support and ask for growth and development, because it shows that they're really, really serious about what it is that they're wanting to do. And they're ready to be committed and to look for answers and to look for ways in which to be more successful or more abundant or happier and that sort of stuff. If you just keep going at it on your own, you're just going to come across so many the same obstacles. You're going to go round in circles. You're going to get yourself confused and frustrated. And the last thing we want is for people to give up on their dreams, because they deserve to have the success just like everybody else.
Yeah, I think I've had it a lot lately, with obviously the virtual assistant side of things. Had a lot of people who maybe with their businesses especially aren't in the place they really want to be, or they're not making the money, or you know, that kind of thing. And so, you know, I've kind of said to them, you know, we'll do some sort of exchange, or some sort of, you know, I'll use your services, you use mine, and we'll see how we can help each other and that kind of thing. And I think, you know, it is that first stumbler block is almost admitting you've got that problem. You know, they say like at, you know, any of these like meetings where you go and say, my name is Serena and I have a problem kind of thing. But that is the
100%.
block, isn't it? You know, people,
100%.
because then I suppose almost you've got that like little devil on your shoulder saying, well, no one's going to help me, you know, or I don't know. You've got all those sort of those hate, you know, those hate
mind monkeys.
you put on yourself already going through your head.
Yeah, 100%.
Serena, what you've just said though is kind of, it reminds me of something that my brother, who's my older brother, who I trust a lot, he once said to me, try lots of little things. When I started up in business, I've been through redundancy as well, so I understand what you mean. It's tough, and you kind of pick yourself up, and I went through a number of similar things to you, so I kind of empathize. And I discovered my resilience when my mother died. You know, virtually at the same time this had all happened. So 3 major life incidents for me were going on. And I suddenly went, do you know what? I've just got to keep going and also trust that I can get beyond those things. And at the end of the day, also to start to use my support network, I'm going to go back to that because it's a really key thing, to actually get me through and beyond. Now, I lost friendships through the hardships that I went through. some amazing friends, and I love having a whole new group of friends, and I love having my older friends who have stuck by me. But you come away from it knowing, you know, I've developed and I'm stronger, and I don't respond in the way that I used to respond to things that I would have done when I worked at Aviva as a team manager or whatever it was I was doing, development manager at the time. I'm not that person anymore, and aren't I good for it? Aren't I happier for it? It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's that kind of, like we touched on earlier and said that, you know, you're always evolving and your mindset's changing and your goals are changing, the way you view the world around you is changing. So those relationships kind of, and that, you know, people always say tribe, but I think it reminds me of like the cavemen and stuff. So, but like that support network of, you know, that, you know, that will evolve with you almost, won't it? And, you know, they're the people that will be there to support, but also, you know, empower you and lift you up further, especially, you know, when you're in business and you kind of, that's a challenge in itself, I think. But I suppose it's,
but you've got to test those little things out, haven't you? Like you said, you know, you don't win big, if you like, in business or in, say, wanting to develop a skill without trying it out.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Maybe that's a good thing to think, well, you know, I'm not going to spend £1,000 on, say, having a new website, but perhaps I could do this thing instead that might change the direction of my business. And having faith that, you know, you don't just whop the money into something, but you've thought it through and can see how you're going to do it. And I, for example, agree with your view that you would work with other businesses to maybe test those things out and help each other through the process, through co-support, I suppose.
Yeah. I think in anything it's just a case of having that sort of mutual ground, and that, you know, like Emma said earlier about that, you know, that mutual understanding of whatever situation that you are going through, you know, whether it be, you know, anything, you know, like you touched on sort of infertility and, you know, baby problems, that I had that before I had my little boy, kept losing babies, and there was a 5 of us in total who kept sort of falling pregnant, losing, that kind of thing. And so we were all each other's support, because we all could, you know, we all knew what, you know, everyone was going through. And I think that's the thing, just finding that, you know, someone or people that have dealt with it or are dealing with it at the time can really, you know, that can totally switch your mindset, can't it, really? Because you don't drag yourself down by being alone, do you?
No, that's the thing, is, you know, isolation can cause my monkeys to just go into overdrive. And I think, you know, that's the thing, is just getting surrounding yourself with people to almost control these mind monkeys. For me, you know, I really want to break the stigma that comes with anything that's sort of traumatic or life defining in any way, that causes us to feel that we have to keep it to ourselves, that society isn't ready to hear it, and that sort of stuff. And so you almost start to build like this wall around you where you just think, well, I can't say anything to people because they might judge me, or I might lose friendships, or I might this, that and the other. Half the time the things we worry about don't ever come true. Pretty much all of us at some point have said, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And so it's really important for, you know, for me to really encourage people to get that support, to feel proud of the things of who you are, and to know that actually there is support out there, that not everyone judges. And if there are people that judge, it says a lot more about them than it does about you. And if you lose friendships, it says a lot more about them than it does about you. And just trust that the right people will find you, whether it's personally, professionally, whatever it may be. But do not feel that you can't say anything. Yes, you might be processing it and that sort of stuff, and therefore you might need that time to do that. But don't ever feel that you can't say something, because there is always someone that is willing to hear and to listen and to support you in any which way. And, you know, I think that is really, really key. You know, for years, my sister was the first person that I told, but I kept that away from her for a year and just sort of buried myself in traveling to Australia and drinking way too much and living in denial and burying my head in the sand and all that good stuff that really did nothing for me in the long term, but it was my survival mechanism kicking in. But eventually I spoke to people, and the people that love me have always supported me, and that's the important thing. And I'm not just talking friends and family, I'm talking, you know, coaches that I've worked with, you know, counselors that I've worked with, people who are in the industry who have different services, and I now work with. We're all supporting one another. You know, we're empowering women, and we should support and embrace that rather than put people down.
Yeah,
That's brilliant. That's a good final word from you.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, that's really good. Yeah, I'm actually feeling quite tearful. I don't know why.
Bless you.
I don't know, just things going on in my mind, I suppose. And I have been on a school trip with my daughter today. So yeah, I think I just need a glass of wine or something.
Probably.
Andy, have you got anything final you would like to just sort of sum up what we've said, or the main point that you've taken from this conversation, or want to sort of portray for this?
Well, I actually found, I don't know if you can read this, but does it go back to front?
No,
Can you see
I can
this?
see that.
I'll read it out. Can you see it? I think it's really good because it actually says, I'm strong because I know my weaknesses. I am beautiful because I am aware of my flaws. I am fearless because I learn to recognize illusion for it. I am a lover because I have felt hate, and I can laugh because I have known sadness. So you can laugh because you've known sadness. And it's surprising, isn't it? Because I take Emma's point, actually, that even if somebody has done something terrible, or, you know, to you or to anybody, is that there is a hope and a light after those things have happened, whether they happen many years or whether they happen of ourselves again. As a general people, I'm talking here. And I think it's really good to know that there's always going to be a flip side to the happy days, but it's understanding how much bad days maybe, sometimes even remembering the nicest thing we could ever remember, the happiest day of our lives, whether it's the day of getting married or whether it's having our firstborn, or if it's those things of remembering a lovely holiday. Sometimes even if you're in the thick of a negative mind, you can just pick yourself out, go into that mental imagery and take yourself out of that funk, or even just to get up and move about as well. Being very physical, I think, helps us with our mood as well. And I didn't mention that earlier, but I should have.
That and music's good for getting you out. Because music's so emotive.
We need another mindset session, I think, because we could go so much more deeper. So maybe we'll schedule that in the diary. But we are virtually out of time. Emma, is there anything final you'd like to add other than music?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was just again with triggers don't have to be negative, they can be positive. So it's about finding, you know, if you put on a piece of music or create a playlist of feel good songs that take you back to a time in your life when you were really happy, stuff like that really helps you to get out of that low feeling, that funky feeling that, you know, that Angie was just talking about. It's really just being open to helping yourself. I think that's the key thing with mindset work. It is an evolving process, it is a commitment, but you can have fun with it along the way. And it's just having that awareness of your, you know, your patterns, your beliefs and all of that sort of stuff, but just really having fun with it and helping yourself. So if you're feeling crap and flat and stuff, phone someone who you know will make you laugh, or watch a video on YouTube that will cheer you up, or put on some music that guarantees to put a smile on your face. Any of those things lift you up posture wise, you know, really helps. No one's ever feeling flat when they're stood like this and they've got a smile on their face. You know, if you're feeling like this, you're going to feel really small and withdrawn. So open your body up smile, just force a smile, and it will shift your mindset straight away. It's just finding things that work for you. You know, all of us are different. We've all got different experiences that have kind of designed and created the minds and the beliefs and all of that we have. So just really take on board some of these suggestions and see whether they fit in with who you are and how you work, and then just find a couple and look to start small, like 5 to 10 minutes a day of really focusing your attention on your mindset work, your life assignments or whatever it may be, and then progress. But everyone has a spare 5 minutes. They can't maybe not go on Facebook for 5 minutes, and maybe spend some time focusing on, you know, their attention on just meditation, visualization, anything like that. Start small and build up.
Fabulous. Well, we are coming up to 9 o'clock, so people might want to go away and actually spare a few minutes to actually think about, you know, have a look at how they're processing things at the moment. I'll just have a look at the comments, and there's a lot of agreement there on you know, support, and you know, any physical activity, music's good, support. So there's a lot that can sort of help you turn a negative mindset into a positive. I suppose for me, what I've taken mainly from this conversation is the reflection aspect of actually taking a little bit of time out just to sort of look in on the situation, or actually look on how you're feeling about something, and also you know, having that processing time. I know before, when I spoke to Angie and Sam, who I mentioned earlier, you know, there's different apps that you can use, and different, you know, like Headspace and that kind of thing, and other apps are available, but that kind of, you know, where you can sort of almost force yourself to take that time out to sort of reflect and meditate, and you know, there's those sort of things. I think that's important. But I suppose the main thing for me is that support, just having that kind of, you know, that support network, you know, people who you can call upon in different situations. Maybe you'd go to personal friends if it was something, you know, more family orientated or something like that, or business friends if you were having like a business crisis. So that support is really key. But I think definitely I'd love to have you both on, maybe sort of in a few months' time, because we could expand on this.
Love to.
Try and get Sam on as well, because I know we could. There's so many people who, when I put out about the show, who wanted to look at mindset and how they could change their mindset. I think we could definitely look deeper into this. We've just scratched the surface from what I can see. But thank you ever so much, both of you. Feel free, everyone, thank you for commenting and watching and liking and whatnot. Obviously, feel free to carry on the conversation on the chat. Angie, I'd love it if you could also put a picture of your you know, your little wording thing there, because that would be grand. Then people can sort of reflect on that as well. The next show is a slight change in schedule. We usually meet here every 2 weeks, but I'm actually on holiday. Getting excited. On that Monday, so me and my mummy Lorraine and my daughter Ella are going to come on here and do a Mother's Day special. So it's going to be a little bit different to the usual, a little bit off the wall. I don't know how it's going to go with a 5-year-old, but we'll play it by ear and see how it goes. So, and that'll be on Mother and Sunday at a slightly earlier time of 6 o'clock, because she has a bedtime. So we'll see how that goes. So hopefully everyone who's watched this evening has enjoyed this. Feel free to continue the conversation, and I'll see you here. We will see you there, me, my mummy and daughter, on the 11th at 6 o'clock. So thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.